Welcome to lesson 19 of your journey of life, which is about smoking, the dangers of smoking, the health benefits related to quitting, and how to access support. So, for your first task this lesson, we want you to consider the following scenario and then discuss as a class what you think is happening to Melanie. Melanie is walking to school when, to her surprise, her friend Laura pulls out a packet of cigarettes and offers her one. When Melanie says she doesn't want one, Laura tells her, "Go on, it's not going to do you any harm. You're not going to get addicted from having just one." What is happening here to Melanie? Well, what Melanie is experiencing here is peer pressure. Peer pressure is when someone you know is trying to influence you. This can be direct peer pressure, like what Melanie is experiencing, or indirect peer pressure, which is subtle and you may not even realise someone is having an influence on you. Melanie might feel like she has to take the cigarette because Laura wants or expects her to. It's natural to want to feel accepted, and unfortunately, some people use this to their advantage and pressure others to do something they wouldn't otherwise choose to do. Remember, though, that not all peer pressure is a negative thing. Imagine you have some exams coming up, and your friend has a revision plan that works for them, and you haven't even picked up a textbook. Their actions may encourage you to revise with them, which is a positive thing. However, when we talk about peer pressure, it is more often than not regarded as a negative thing. If we succumb to peer pressure, we may lose a bit of self-respect. This is because we're doing things, not because we want to do them, or following our own beliefs. Instead, we're doing things to please others and compromising on our own desires or beliefs. Okay, now let's see what are the things you can think of that people may be pressured into doing. It might be that you have your own experiences with this. Discuss this as a class and make a note of any examples you can think of on your worksheet. Okay, there are many examples of what a peer could pressure you into. Some of these include bullying, losing weight, looking a certain way, doing something dangerous, or having sex. It's important that you never feel pressured to have sex, and if you feel you have been coerced into it, this could be against the law. Okay, let's go back to Melanie. Recap the scenario and consider what she might be thinking about the situation and how you think she might be feeling. Write some phrases in the thought bubbles on your worksheet. Okay, so it's impossible to know for sure how anyone would react in this situation, so all thoughts are valid. But it's likely that Melanie could be feeling panicked or anxious about the situation, and she could be rapidly trying to think through different ways of handling the situation and the potential outcomes if she says yes or no to the cigarette. It may not seem like a big deal in a one-off situation, but repeated instances of peer pressure have been linked to depression in young people, so it can become a serious issue. Okay, now let's consider Laura's claim that you can't get addicted from smoking one cigarette. Working in pairs or small groups, discuss whether you think it is difficult or easy to become addicted to smoking. Then share your thoughts with the class. Okay, So addiction is described as the inability to stop using a substance or engaging in a behaviour. So in the case of cigarettes, the substance is nicotine and the behaviour is smoking. Many people think that nicotine addicts are people who smoke 40 or more cigarettes a day. But an addict can be someone who smokes only 1 or 2 a day, or even infrequently. For example, social smokers. Social smokers are people who only smoke when they are in social situations, which often include alcohol, because, for many people, drinking alcohol is a trigger, meaning that if they drink alcohol, they begin to crave a cigarette. Many people who smoke socially go on to become regular smokers, as over time their body becomes more addicted to nicotine, and the symptoms of withdrawal increase. So, it is possible to become addicted to nicotine very quickly, but it is different for each person, and it's the repeated action of smoking that makes you an addict, not necessarily the amount you smoke. Now, the reason people become addicted to smoking is because of what nicotine does to your brain. Smoking a cigarette affects the level of dopamine in the brain, which makes you feel good for a little while. But when the effects wear off, users might feel a bit down or on edge. So, you can see why they would reach for another cigarette. They want to feel good again. The problem is that the good feeling becomes more difficult to achieve the longer someone smokes. And they'll often end up smoking more in order to get it. The companies that sell cigarettes don't highlight this, as sharing this information won't help their profits. So it's no wonder we're sometimes unsure what to do when offered our first cigarette. And part of this is that over the years, the media has given us mixed messages about smoking. Adverts to encourage people to smoke were quite common several decades ago. They made smoking look glamorous and certainly didn't highlight the health risks. However, in 2002, the Tobacco Advertising and Promotion Act put an end to most cigarette advertising in the UK. The Act prevents tobacco products from being advertised on TV or in newspapers, in magazines, or on billboards. Tobacco companies then started to use cigarette packaging as marketing. That was until all packets were standardised in the UK in May 2017. And although this lack of advertising steers people away from smoking, smoking is still sometimes glamorised in films. It's not just films that continue to highlight smoking. Smoking is prevalent in TV shows and music videos too, such as Love Island and The Simpsons. It's also rife in music videos. Take a moment now to see if you can think of any current examples. As well as characters who smoke, there are characters on the TV who vape. Vaping involves heating up a liquid until it turns into a vapour and breathing it in. However, this vapour can contain many harmful chemicals that damage the lungs. We'll discuss vaping in more detail shortly, but for now, try to answer these multiple choice questions about smoking in the UK. What percentage of adults in the United Kingdom are smokers? Is it A. 7.4%, B. 14.7%, C. 21.8%, or D. 31.1%? The answer is B, 14.7%, which is equivalent to 6.9 million adults. Who do you think smokes more, males or females? In the UK, males tend to smoke more though the gap is very small. In which age group do you think smoking is least common? 16 to 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 49, 50 to 59, 60 plus. Smoking is least common in people aged 60 and older. Although they are more likely than younger people to have been smokers at some point in their lives, they're also more likely to have stopped smoking. Okay, now it's time to consider some of the health statistics related to smoking. For this next task, see if you can fill in the blanks on your worksheet to reveal the information about the health risks associated with smoking. If you're unsure of any, leave the space blank, and we'll go through them after the task. Okay, so the statement reads, nearly every organ in your body is harmed by smoking. It causes lung cancer, respiratory disease, and heart disease, as well as cancers in other organs, including the mouth, throat, bladder, stomach, and kidneys. It's the main cause of preventable illness and death. In England, smoking accounts for around 74,600 deaths each year. And the estimated global yearly death toll is 7 million. In 2019, 15% of all deaths of adults aged 35 and over were attributed to smoking. The cost of smoking to the NHS is estimated to be £2.5 billion a year. Okay, what about vaping? Some people think vaping is much better than smoking. In fact, many quit smoking programs encourage smokers to switch to this format. However, it's not without its drawbacks. Most vapes contain nicotine, so are just as addictive as cigarettes, and people who vape are more likely to start smoking or return to cigarettes. The full health effects of vaping are not yet known, but early studies have shown that they increase the likelihood of anxiety and depression and significantly affect sleep. The lung damage they cause can also be life-threatening. So now we know nicotine is addictive, and smoking and vaping has negative health effects. It's time to consider the benefits of quitting. For this final task, try and come up with a list of all the benefits you think quitting smoking might bring. Discuss them with a partner and list them on your worksheet. Okay, you may have come up with some of the following. Your lungs clear out and your sense of smell and taste is restored. Your circulation improves. Breathing feels easier. You'll no longer smell like cigarettes. You'll have more energy. So the benefits are great, but you still have to successfully quit smoking to experience them, and that can be very difficult. Let's end with a roundup of what help is available to those who want to quit. There are stop smoking treatments, like nicotine replacement therapy or medicine. You could contact your local stop smoking service for help and support. You could switch to vaping as a way to quit, but the results of this method appear unclear. You can also head to the NHS website for more information on the health effects of smoking and how to quit. I'll see you in the next lesson, where we'll be discussing extremism. So, in today's lesson, we've learned about the dangers of smoking, the health benefits related to quitting, and how to access support. So with that in mind, think back to the scenario from the first task we did today, and imagine that Melanie had just been taught the information in this lesson. Write a short story or draw a comic strip that shows Laura trying to persuade Melanie to smoke and what Melanie's response could be.